Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Illini guy Mike Cagley. Tell you what, folks, this is looking to be a heck of a game. It was a fantastic finish by the Illini, who closed 13-1 over the last minute and 57 seconds. This was quite a way to close it out, and we have been waiting all year for the Illini to do something like this. Timing is everything. This looks like the ultimate finish as you head into the Big Ten tournament. And folks, if the Illini were able to win this, they won this game, and then they're able to do well in the Big Ten tournament, it really adds justification to those individuals who were saying, hey, this Illini team, they were ill, they were injured, a lot going against them. And it allows somebody to say, maybe they are really correct. That was not an overestimation. I think that is something that goes on in the back of the minds of these folks because it's not all about numbers. And of course, Brad Underwood doesn't want to talk about illness and injury. Don't blame him. I wouldn't either. But the fact of the matter is that in this case, it seems to be borne out to be true. So let's go and talk a little bit about what is happening from a standpoint of scoring. Down the line, Boswell, 15 points. He had 4 of 7 shooting and 7 of 9 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and a key stat, no turnovers. Will Riley, 22 points. We are watching him bloom into the player that everyone thought he would be, the highest ranked Illini recruit since D. Brown. 22 points. He was 7 for 14 from the field, 6 for 6 from the free throw line. He ended up with 2 boards, 4 assists, and only 1 turnover. So that was really important. As we go down, we have Kedric Prince joining us as we go down the stat line. Ivisic was 14 points, 5 for 10 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. And Trey White comes back in very big status. 20 points on 7 for 9 shooting, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 9 boards, 1 assist, 1 TO. Yakachonis was 10 points, shot 3 for 10, 2 for 3 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and only 2 turnovers. Gibbs Lawhorn was no points, 0 for 1 with a turnover. Rick House was 7 points. He was 2 for 4, 1 for 2 from the free throw line with a board. And Jake Davis was 0 for 2 and had 1 rebound. Ed, this was a very much a team effort. Illinois only had 4 turnovers in the second half. They had them in 4 out of 5 possessions towards the end of the game. I think their last one was roughly with about 2 minutes to go, or maybe a little bit before that. And then after that point, I think this Illini team locked it up and went 13-1 down the last 157, hitting their last 3 field goals. And Purdue at the same time was 0 for 6. I thought this was probably the best closing of a game this season, Ked. What are your thoughts?
Mike, there's so much to talk about right now. I don't know where to start. I really don't. I guess I'll start with this one because it's the most obvious. They finally end the streak with Purdue. Purdue had owned Illinois for years, and I know we talked about it at halftime. This was a game that they needed to win, and they had to win for a lot of reasons. Just from a program standpoint, a confidence standpoint, there's just so many things to talk about this evening in this podcast, from me buying stock in Will Riley and just the adjustments being made and guys stepping up and guys making you pull your hair out, which I don't have any left. It was just great. And we all are a bunch of guys that get text messages from fans during the game and friends or whatever you want to call them. And people were just giving up on them. And my poor kids, I don't know, my 2 kids, Keelan and Kennedy, One's giving up, one's having faith, and then 50 seconds later they both change. It's been a stressful season, but it's been a great season. And right now, they're playing their best basketball right now without one of their big missing pieces. You think about it, they played Iowa, they went to Michigan and won, and they ended the streak against Purdue. And Michigan was ranked 14th at the time, and Purdue was ranked 18th coming into tonight.
Yeah, it has been, again, if you want to really think about this, Brad Underwood has made the case that his team didn't practice together much. They were sick to a level he has never seen as a coach. Then you had injury bugs in terms of KJ and then Tomislav and now Morez. And you can really argue that when you throw in a smattering of the flu and mono and other things going through this team, a lot of people are like, yeah, the Illini aren't doing as good as they think, and now they're making excuses. But this is something that really makes people think. If you're trying to figure out where you're going to seed this team, you have to be thinking that maybe there was something to that and that there were some legitimate issues that kept Illinois from playing at the level they wanted to play at. And it seems like they are starting to get that back.
They are. And let's, give credit where credit's due. They made some lineup adjustments. They've made adjustments with their offense. And how about this? All you basketball gurus out there, you X's and those guys, how about giving Brad Underwood some credit for under the 2 or 3 minute mark to double down on Akeem Olajuwon in the second half, because they had no answer, and it was something that they hadn't seen, because for the most part, Illinois doesn't do that. They didn't do that to the Reese kid. And then I think Kaufman wasn't expecting it, and then the next time on the court, Purdue called timeout. Kudos to Illinois, because those are adjustments that make a difference in games, and I applaud them for it. I really do. And out of bounds plays, out of timeouts, all the things that I'm going to say that I had concerns about, I had none today. If they would have lost, I wouldn't have been upset, because Purdue would have been the better team. They executed on offense. Players are starting to understand their roles. We talk about certain players. Ben-Hum Rickhouse is a guy that was just, in the doghouse with a lot of people. Who was another one? Ben-Hum Rickhouse.
Boswell's been in the doghouse.
Yes.
Trey White.
Trey White. And those guys stepped up huge tonight, Mike. And even KJ, who's an NBA player potentially. And I don't know whose shot was bigger. People can say KJ's was, but I tell you, Rickhouse's threes put you in a position to do well. Will Riley still on the end down there against Akeem Olajuwon was huge. There were so many big plays tonight made in this game. You have to give kudos to everybody involved. And I can finally say it. This is a team I would not want to play in the tournament. You've never heard me say that tonight, 9:44 Central Time where I live. I would not want to play this team in the tournament if they're making threes like that. And the X factor is just Trey White. Somehow, I hope he comes back. That guy adds a lot to the table and to this team.
Yeah, we have some pictures from IlliniGuys photographer Joe Pickrell, and it is amazing. There's several where Trey's up above the rim, and he really played quite well tonight. Let's go through some of the other stats. Purdue ended up shooting 51% to Illinois' 49%. Purdue was 28% from the three. Illinois at 37, propelled by shooting 7 for 15 in the second half. And most of those threes, folks, were inside out threes where they got the ball from inside, shoulders are square to the basket, and you can shoot that. Free throw percentage, 85% for Purdue, 84 for the Illini. And I'm going to say something. Look, I've been watching Illinois basketball since 1977, and you don't see many games where Illinois gets to outshoot Purdue at the free throw line over that long time. But Illinois was 21 of 25, and Purdue was 11 of 13. That difference is what people are used to seeing go for Purdue. Yes, I am a dinosaur, Zachary. There's always a clever person out there, but you don't see Illinois getting that advantage. Turnovers were 8-8. The Illini, if they keep their turnovers to 4 to 5 a half, are going to be very hard to beat. Points off of turnovers, it evened up 12-11. Purdue with a slight advantage. Illinois out rebounded them 29-27. And second chance points were 8 for Purdue, 6 for Illinois. And when you look at it, points in the paint, Purdue had a nice advantage of 44-28. Fast break points were 8-3. So you really, when you look at this, Illinois out assisted Purdue 20-14. So this was a very tough game down the stretch. And I think it'll be very interesting to see if they get to play again. I will throw up a comment here, Ked.
Saw
I
that.
do think he got away with at least 3 travels.
Yes, he did.
And I also thought that the moving screen, I thought Braden Smith, the one where he held on to Ivisic like an offensive guard, and then you had to listen to the old guy talk about how he's got a lot of heart. And it's, oh my God. And so the guy's basically setting a moving pick, and it was crazy. But I will say, I thought Illinois got the whistle. I thought especially 2 of the early fouls in the second half, I thought they were going to be jump ball calls. I probably would have called them jump balls. They were fouls on Purdue. And it was nice to see Illinois get the whistle advantage against the Boilermakers, because you just don't see it that often. And I enjoy it better than I do the other way around, Ked.
Mike, I'm sorry, man. They were fouls. If you look at the replay, they grabbed Kylan Boswell's arms. What I will say, I agree with you on, they don't get those calls at home. And that was a change. Illinois didn't, I tried not to talk about the officiating, but let's just be honest here. What I'm really upset about, I was going to ask you a question. The calls, I think, in the second half went Illinois' favor,
Except for
because
one.
the one guy who called that blocked shot, I don't know, that foul, and then the play when KJ threw the ball off the guy's basket. I know I lost about 6,000 brain cells on both of those plays, because that official anticipated the foul because there was nothing to call, and then when KJ missed that layup, I don't know. I bet people all over the country could hear me scream. I know my neighbors were knocking on the door to see if I was okay.
We could hear it in Dallas, Ked.
I'm telling you, man, and we're about 16 hours away from each other. Mike, that was awful. It really was. Thank goodness the officials didn't take the game away. But then I'll tell you what I didn't was, after the official made one of the most horrendous calls in college basketball, he gets mad at Brad Underwood and tells Brad Underwood to control his players. I'm Brad Underwood. You control the game, and you need to do your damn job, because that was brutal. That was flipping brutal to just give them a call. And I don't want to see anybody be cheated. Call what you see. That's been my philosophy since I've been involved with sports. But damn, if you're going to be at home, man, you got to start getting some of these calls, because I guarantee it. Kaufman Red will set a screen, and he will stick his ass cheek out 7 more inches 4 or 5 times until it works. Those are fouls, man. They're just fouls, and you can't allow that to happen. That's the advantage to Purdue. Thank goodness that they won, so people can't say, "Kid, you're being a homer," because that's why they lost. The officials, they were okay, but there were some horrendous calls. At the end of the day, I'm glad Illinois won. I'm just, to get the monkey off Brad Underwood's back. I told you guys at halftime, Purdue loved beating Illinois. There's a lot of unhidden agendas there amongst the programs that you guys you'd be surprised about. And you can see the energy. When was the last time you seen Brad Underwood, other than Michigan, coaching the way he was coaching tonight? He wanted this win.
Yeah, and look, these two universities are 90 miles apart, and I'm sure that Matt Painter would love to have the NIL support that Brad Underwood has. I'm sure that there's some little bit of frustration there. And of course, these are the best 2 teams over the last 5 years in the Big Ten.
Correct.
And so to see them playing at the end of the season like this, I got to give a tip of my hat to the Big Ten to put this game on Fox on a Friday night. Fans across the nation got to see a really good battle. And again, I know I disagree a little bit with you, but I actually thought the refs overall were pretty good tonight. And I think the opportunity to see these 2 teams play, it was a very fun game. That Purdue team, I think they acquitted themselves very well. Kaufman Wren reminded me of a low rent Trace Jackson Davis, that probably not quite as athletic, a little less under the rim. but a determined player who could definitely get his points in the paint. You got to give a tip of hat to him. Braden Smith played an excellent game. Funny thing is, Ked, he almost got his first triple double
Yes.
tonight. He had 18 points. He had 12 assists, got stuck on 9 rebounds, and was unable to cross the line on that, but he almost got a triple double. When you talk about a guy who's maybe 5'11, I got to give a tip of my hat. He played a fantastic game, and I think he'll probably come back next year for his senior year, max out whatever NIL funds he can get at Purdue, and go down as a Purdue
Let
legend. Any thoughts on what we saw from the Purdue team tonight, Ked?
I don't know how this is going to be done, and I don't know if there's any Purdue fans listening to this podcast, but I don't know how Purdue doesn't have two guys on the first team All Big Ten team. Kaufman Wynn is an animal. What Illinois fans saw tonight is what he has done all season. I've watched him just abuse everybody he plays. He averages 19 points a game. That's remarkable, and he doesn't miss. And Braden Smith has just been solid. And I know there's so many good players in this league, but I have to give them credit. They are a really balanced team. And how did they lose 4 games in a row, 3 or 4 games in a row? It's beyond me. I don't know how that happened, but same could be said about Illinois. But I don't think Purdue had the injuries that Illinois had to go through. But I just think those two guys are great. And I personally wish they would either leave the conference or go to the NBA and stay in the conference, because they're going to be held for somebody again next year. I see why people pick Purdue to do well, because of just those two players alone, and they surround themselves with really good players. I can't, I can't, I have nothing but respect for both of those two guys. I have major respect for how Matt Painter runs his offense, but I will say this. All the people out there want to say Matt Painter, our coach Brad Underwood, I'm not saying that tonight. Brad Underwood, or whether it was his son or Tyler, I shouldn't say this, excuse me, Tyler Underwood or Orlando, Jeff Alexander, they drew up some really good schemes all game long, schemes I hadn't seen before. They put guys in a position to score where they scored really well. They've been really good defensively in the last 2 games my understanding, since the Duke game. Brad Underwood just threw the towel out and said, I'm taking control. And defense has been a lot better. Now, people say, well, how can you say they're giving up 80 points to Purdue? You're not going to hold teams down from scoring. But Purdue had to work for what they got. Duke game, they just went out there and, like we know, they had managers out there dropping threes. That didn't happen anymore. Kudos to Purdue, but I have to give Coach Underwood and his staff credit. They are gelling at the right time. And if they could Moraz would just be good just for defensive purposes alone. Having him to come back, I don't know what he'll be offensively. He was starting to shine in the Michigan State game and starting to be comfortable. But with this lineup that they have, who do you sit? I don't think you can, because Trey White he doesn't need to sit on the bench. Will Riley needs to stay in that lineup. He is a gamer. Katie is not coming out, so I don't know. And let's give kudos to Kylan Boswell. He's a guy defensively that's played well. He's gotten better. He's starting to really figure out and blossom into the player that we thought he was going to be, Mike. This team is starting to look really good, and I do feel confident now going into the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because after the game, Matt Painter actually said, basically, when he says there, he means the Illini. They're one of those teams that can just blitz people in the NCAA tournament. But if they get into one of those ruts, it's going to be how the wind blows for them. They can beat anyone in the country. That is a backhanded compliment, but nonetheless, I don't know that I can argue with what he has to say. What I like tonight, and Ked talked about this at halftime, is the 3-pointers were not the, hey, you know what, we've had the ball for 6 seconds, and I can actually visually see the rim from the 32 feet I'm at. Let's shoot a three. These threes tonight were when they moved the ball, got it to an open man, made the extra pass, and more importantly, Trey White, we saw him be the beneficiary of it. They got the ball inside and then threw it out for a 3-point shot. And again, the inside out three, you're going to hear that from Ked, Brad, and myself. But that inside out three means your shoulders are squared as a shooter. You don't have to take the ball, face the basket, make those adjustments on the run. And I think that those type of threes, it really give you much more opportunity to cash in on them. And I thought Illinois was taking smart threes, and I didn't mind 33-point attempts tonight when they were so much better in terms of the quality of what Illinois was getting a look at.
I agree. And something that people, I think the coaching staff, what I was told, they did a really good job of finding out how to get threes. And this is something that the fans may think, I never thought about that. Illinois they're a much better shooting team when they receive the pass directly face to face instead of from side to side. For example, if KJ had the ball at the top of the key and he's throwing the ball to Ben Rickhouse, who's right in front of the Illinois bench, they don't shoot it as well. But when that pass comes down from the post or from baseline to baseline skipping or from the 3/4 part of the 3-point line face to face, they shoot the ball much better. And I think they've started to figure that out because that's where a lot of those threes come from. If you look at Trey White, a lot of his come from the baseline. If you look at a lot of Ben Rickhouse's threes, they're coming from down in the post to the or skip pass, which is good. Those are things, little numbers that people don't think about, but they figure that out right now. Mike, we had a comment on here from $5. Tommy, I don't know whether it's a good post or bad post about the fanboy, but I'm no different than anybody else who runs an internet site, who works for an internet site. We are fans who are legitimate media credential people who do our job. I don't care. I'm not going to promote any other program, but I can assure you, you listen to some of the other people who are doing the same thing, you're going to get the same feedback. Say what you want. I love it. I like it. I have to give this team credit, and I'm going to continue to be honest and be blunt about things. And do I like to see Illinois win? You darn betcha I do. I'm not working for Illini guys because it's not called Iowa Hawkeye guys or the Purdue Boilermaker guys. I do want to see them win. It's fun when they win games, and I like. Oh, excuse me. I need to give this credit to the fans. Were great tonight, Mike. The fans were unbelievable tonight. I thought that was huge as well, and I think the players fed off that.
Yeah, and look, I got to be honest with you. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how you got lumped into the Fire Brad guys.
I
I
don't
guess
care. I really don't. I
I'm just
comment on it. I
saying
don't give a shit.
I'm just saying that's just the weirdest thing because I guess I'm trying to figure out when you ever said anything even close to that. But
Nope.
hey, life is what it is. People hear what they want to hear. I think the other thing when I go here, Trey White has had quite a journey this year, coming to the Illini, starting off the season and then struggling, getting back in playing well, and then all of a sudden he was benched for a while, and now he comes back and he seems to be hitting his groove again, Ked. Just how important do you think he is as Illinois goes into the Big Ten tournament?
Let's look at this real quick. I'm going to answer your question, but Illinois have 5 guys in double figures. That's huge. Trey White is I. There's one X factor. You can only say one, but I think if they run the offense and if they could keep Ibisic healthy, Trey White is smart. He's athletic. He can read screens when he's at the top of this key off the ball screens, whether it be from the baseline. He seems to know how to make the right cut. He's just really smart and he's crafty with the ball. What I don't want to see him do is settle. If the game goes bad and he has a bad couple minutes, that's when things go south with him. He needs to stay aggressive. He needs to continue to cut without the ball. He's probably one of the better players in the Big Ten with moving without the ball, which is an underrated part of the game. He's just extremely valuable because he's that athlete, that X factor that they don't have. And he's also the guy that they allow to shoot a lot of 2-point field goals because he's good at it. Every time Purdue made a 3, he came down and scored. Yeah, 3 plus 2, 3 is more than 2, obviously, but he kept you in the game instead of just jacking up a bunch of threes. So instead of going down 6-0, you're down 4-2, whatever the case may be, or 3-2. So I like his game, Mike. They have to keep him going, feed him, get him active. And when the same thing with Oswald. I shouldn't just say Trey White. Look how many N1s he's getting. Kylan's just so strong when he punishes guards that are even his size and bigger. What they're doing on offense is what I said I like, how they spread it. And the Ibisic is just like a Rolls Royce out there just passing the ball to his teammates because they look good cutting and they know. And it's not a fluke. You can see these are design plays.
Yeah, and I do think the only concern I have coming out of this game, I guess I have two concerns. One is, when's Morez going to feel better? And I have my fingers crossed that he'll be able to play in the postseason. The
He was in a
second
cast
one
again tonight.
is what?
I was looking. He was in a cast again tonight. I know what you're saying. Sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off, but I was saying he's still in the cast.
And he's got, look, it's 6 days now. They play Thursday, don't they, in the tournament? So that gives him 6 days. Hopefully that'll be enough. If not, the bottom line is you can choose to rest him another week, which is 2 weeks, and then have him start in the NCAA tournament, or have him return then if Illinois is fortunate enough. I'm good either way. So that's the first concern I have, and nobody can control that. The second concern I have is that I want to see Illinois clean up, and I'm afraid it's going to be hard to clean up unless Morez does come back. Is the concern that I have is that Purdue was 18 for 22 on layups. I do not want to see 22 layups in a game again. Now, I'm going to let people think about that for a second. We are going to go to a quick commercial here and thank our friends from Busey Bank for supporting the Illini guys. We certainly appreciate that. And when we get back, Ked will talk about the number of layups, and we will bring in a certain Larry Smith to join us.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
And look at this, folks. Just like I promised, we have Larry Smith here, Kedric Prince.
What? My guy. I'm fired up now. It's time to wake up. The legend is here. Sit up, Kedric.
Larry Legend is back, although we got to get him to turn his microphone on. Well, Larry is trying to see if there's a way I can. Oh, Larry's going to come back on. Hey, Ked, start talking a little bit about my concern that Purdue got 22 layups and made 18 of them. Is that a concern worth talking about?
Mike, for me personally, it is not a concern. Here's why it's not a concern for me. This is the third time I mentioned this on this podcast. Illinois played a stud in the post tonight. That kid's good. I was going into the game. I was more worried about him than any player on Purdue's roster. Trey Kaufman is not your average Big Ten, average college basketball player. For some reason, he can't get the credit that he deserves. You go back, and we all have the capabilities of looking at the statistics. He has done this to everyone. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa, Michigan State. The kid is just good. So to me, I can't get mad about that. What I'm excited about was the fact that Brad Underwood and his staff finally decided to make adjustments under the 3-minute mark to double down on him to make it tough for him. No, how many bigs that you're going to see that you're going to play in the Big Ten, and he doesn't miss. I don't know what his field goal percentage is, but I'm going to look it up here real quick. But the guy's just a good player, and sometimes as reporters and fans or what have you, you have to tip your hat to the other team. He's just a really good basketball player, and he works hard at it.
Larry, your thoughts on the game after your chance to catch the tail end of it?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, there we go. Hey, technology works. Listen, guys, I'll be honest. I'll give you guys I'll give you permission to get excited again. This team is back. I was there in New York, and I never thought that I would say after these next 3 games that Illinois is back. This was a team that was completely taken apart in every way you could imagine. But I got a chance to see the final 4 minutes. That's all I needed. Everything Ked was talking about, Trey Kaufman-Renn is a stud. No, he's not Zach Edey. No one is. But he's a very good player. And you're right. I love what they did. He gets the basket, spins on him Rickhouse. And what happens after that is they begin hedging, double teaming. They force him to beat him from 3, and they didn't. Purdue doesn't score. What was it, a 13-1 finish, 8-1 finish? I just did 2 basketball games now tonight. But here's the thing. Illinois scores 80 points. They're 19-1 when they score 80 points. They win the rebounding battle. Here's something else. This is including the Duke game, this is the fourth game in a row they had single-digit turnovers.
Yes.
And nobody's talking about that. So, again, it's one of these that this is a kind of team that they battle them all the way to the end. They get the win. They come up big. Will Riley was outstanding at the end of this, 22 points. He not only the two free throws, but the steal on the double of Trey Kaufman-Renn, right? There's a lot to be excited about. Coming out of the Duke game, we thought, look, and they can just maybe win one of these last three games. Folks, they won all three. They're going to be at the very worst, the 7th seed next week. And they go into, again, here's a second straight game on national TV, CBS on Sunday, Fox tonight, where the entire nation's watching. And they're going to see a team seeded 7th in the Big Ten, probably no better than 6th in the NCAA, unless they go win the whole thing next week in Indy. And nobody facing them in round 2 is happy. Will be happy when they see them in their bracket.
Totally agree with that. And I just look at the turnovers. We've harped on that here. Ked has angina attacks whenever they turn the ball over, and he lets us all know about it. This was quite a thing, and especially when you think about when the actual turnovers happened in this particular, in the second half, the Illini only had 4 turnovers, but they had them literally in 4 out of 5 possessions. And I think the last one was around 220, 230 left in the game. They really allowed Purdue back into the game, and yet they somehow buckled it down, stopped the turnovers, and started getting stops at the other end of the court. I thought that was a remarkable turnaround for this Illini team. And if you're talking about a moment that may be thought about if this team makes some noise in the postseason, I think that little stretch when they had those turnovers and then they decided that they weren't going to do that anymore, that might be one of the key turnaround moments of this season.
That part is true, Mike. I totally agree with you. Earlier, we talked a little bit about the officials and what people are thinking. What I know is going to come up to one of the three of us is that you're probably going to see the free throw disparity. I'm just looking at it. Purdue shot 13 free throw attempts to Illinois' 25. But I will say, for those who are going to argue that I just mentioned before Mr. Smith got on, was that the play of Trey White and Kylan Boswell was 7 for 9 from the free throw line. And a lot of those came off cutting to the basket. So Illinois was aggressive going to the basket tonight. So they didn't, yes, they launched, but they were 11 for 30 from 3, which we talked about. They were really good looks. But the free throw disparity, I really think Illinois, because they attacked the basket. They didn't just set up for threes like they normally do. When your point guard or two guard or combo guard like Kylan Boswell can get to the line 9 times, that's telling you something. And that's been a change in the offense. Illinois is a good free throw shooting team, and to do what they did from the line, 21 of 25, I think that's impressive.
Yeah, and just to give people a little bit more, at the 4:49 mark, Illinois had a turnover by Trey White, and that led to Purdue getting a layup by Kaufman-Renn to go up 73-72. And then the offensive rebound by Humrickhouse, he turned the ball over. You get into a media timeout, and then a nice layup by Purdue on the inbound play. Then KJ gets a turnover, and luckily missed 3-point shot by Braden Smith, and then rebound by Trey White. And then Ivasic turns the ball over, another layup by Purdue. And all of a sudden, Illinois is down by 5 points, and you're starting to think, are we seeing Northwestern all over again? And to the credit of those Illini players, that they stopped it. And then all of a sudden the game turns around, and again, as you're talking, they started attacking the basket. And to me, as somebody who's coached and as just a fan, to me that was a huge turnaround in the game. And as Larry brought up, you're talking 4 turnovers in the first half, 4 turnovers in the second half. I'm telling you, if Illinois stays in single digits, they have a really good shot of making it at least to the Elite Eight.
They're 8-3 when they do that, Mike, to your point. That's one of the issues we had before. Look, 8 turnovers. How many times has KJ had 7 or 6
by
on his
himself.
own? By himself, right? So listen, that's growth. And to your point, the Northwestern game, and that's where the PTSD kicks in with the Illini fans. Like, oh, here we go again. They didn't do that. And that's where, for me, again, I'm listening on the radio to Brian and Dion's calls. I'm going from the arena where my game I was doing to the hotel. I get in, I watch the final 4 minutes, and I'm like, listen, this is exactly what I want to see. I want to see a team come together, run their sets, do their thing on both ends. Look, Purdue had looks. They missed them. But you had guys in their face. And keep in mind, you likely would get Morez Johnson back, at least even just for some limited minutes, Thursday and Friday, and getting him ready for the NCAA tournament. So Illinois fans should be excited about this. I know it's been rough. It's been ugly. I was there at Madison Square Garden. Hideous. We wanted to find a way to, everyone's texting me, they stopped watching the game. I get that. Put all that out of your mind, put Oregon out of your mind, even though it was great, all that's in the past. The team came back in these next 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the season, and did what very few fans thought they could do, and that's run the table. And they did so. They win the rebounding battle tonight. Single-digit free throws. They score 80 points. They're doing everything that we wanted them to do. And if they do all those things, they become really dangerous.
Mike, one of the things that Larry just mentioned about running the table, I know I did it. I know our colleague Brad Sturdy did it, and you did it. We were hoping they would go 1-1 in this Michigan and Purdue series, and they swept them. They're 100%, Larry's 100% right. It's in the past now, and that's what the team is looking at. There was a comment put up there about Dwayne Short. Did Purdue run out of juice at the end? I don't think they did. And I'm going to tell you what I think. I think Illinois wanted the ball more. I think Illinois knew what was at stake. You saw Trey White and it was a foul. He was laying his body on the ground to do everything in the world to get that rebound. They wanted that game. If Visage the big fella doesn't show a lot of emotion, that's why in the locker room, amongst the players and staff, this game was personal. When you lose 5 straight, you hadn't beat Purdue since 2021. Even though these kids, they weren't on the roster last year other than GGL, they knew how important this game was. So I don't think they gave out a gas, Dwayne, but I really think Illinois just wanted it more. And when KJ hit that step back 3, you could just see the momentum change from the players, the coaches, the effort. It was just truly amazing, the effort that they gave down the stretch of that game, because they knew every rebound, every free throw mattered.
And to your point, if I can add to that, KJ, again, has not hit that step back 3 with great regularity in late in games and situations like that. So that's another one of those moments where you go, okay, we saw that against Arkansas. We saw that against Oregon. There are the big games we saw it against. We have not seen it here down the stretch. That was, again, that moment like, okay, this is and he only had 10 points. We had the whole big thing earlier, all the 20 points, and set the Big Ten, the Illinois freshman record, most 20-point games ever. All that's great. But the bottom line is he now understands he didn't have to score 20 points. Trey White, I don't know what his status is for next year, but get this kid back. He almost had a double tonight. This is a team right now. I think the way they did this, listen, Purdue's a better team than Michigan. They took Michigan completely out of their game and took them apart. This was a team that Purdue is ready for Illinois. When it comes down to it, they're going to hit the big shots. They're going to find a way to get the win. Illinois took their best punch, and they punched back, and they won. And they get 20 wins, which, again, 2 weeks ago didn't seem possible. It's all positive. Illinois fans right now should feel very good about where they go. Now, doesn't mean could you get upset in the next game? Of course. That's basketball. But they did what we wanted them to do here in the end, and that is not only win, but be dominant in the way they did. And they did that tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was impressive. And, of course, as you talked, Larry, that 3-game winning streak is there, and it does add fuel. And you've talked about this, and we talked about this on the Sports Spectacular this week. When the committee members are talking about Illinois and where they should be seated, I think a good performance here, but rebounding against after that Duke loss, and also having a nice showing if they can manage that in the Big Ten tournament, certainly lends credence to Brad Underwood talking about how Illinois has had the worst spate of injury / sickness / voodoo magic against it. Is that something that the committee members may look at and say, you know what, maybe we move them to a better seed level because this does prove his point? Or is that something that is just they're going to look at the numbers and the numbers are what they are?
Absolutely. There's no question about that. It's going to be a big part of that when they go through this. The committee comes in, and if they can continue to do well in the Big Ten tournament, look at their resume and look at what they've done compared to other teams on the 6 and 7 line, and tell me there are 4 better teams in those lines than what Illinois has in their resume. There's no question.
Ked, any thoughts on the?
Hey, it's live. I got to. My food is here, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna be real. I gotta get my food. I'll be right back.
Perfect. See, folks, this is the type of stuff. Do you get this on other programs? I don't think so. But here, we keep it real. You get to watch me drink my Coke Zero. You get to watch Ked drink his stuff. He can no longer have soda, so he has to have things like water. Yeah.
Here it is, baby.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was an interesting one, and we all know Chris from IlliniGuys, but I thought the Will Riley steal was huge. But I thought what he did afterwards, because he was started to speed up, and he calmed down, and he made sure that Illinois got the ball, as opposed to trying to respond by threading a needle and having some sort of pass that would potentially cause a turnover. I thought Will Riley showed us his basketball IQ and how he is developed throughout the year here.
Mike, when I've talked about, Chris, I'm glad you mentioned this, and I'm going to give a really good example of why that was huge. I've always talked about when I coach basketball, if I'm going man, I tell my team, you're guarding a man and a half. So tonight, Will Riley I'm going to find out, because I'm just really curious to know, and I will put it on the IlliniGuys on message board. I want to, because you knew who was going to get the basketball. You knew Akeem Olajuwon or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Shaq was going to get the basketball going to post. What I want to find out is if they knew the play was going to him. Now, back to the man and a half. Will Riley either thought or knew they were going to go to Kaufman. They knew it. So having said that, he was guarding his man, hedged off enough to make the steal. So if you just isolate and you're up the line and you're guarding your man, that doesn't happen. He doesn't have a chance to do that. That's why it's important to be able to do both. And a lot of coaches coach man and a half, and some don't. I'm a big believer in it because that's what you get out of it, because I don't think Purdue was expecting that. I know, I would be honest with you, I was surprised when Kaufman ran got the ball. Will Riley was so quick to go over to make that adjustment. It was like it was automatic. And that's also signs of a freshman growing up. That was a very big steal in the game, because truthfully, he would have scored. I don't see why he wouldn't have. If he wouldn't have, he would have probably got the rebound and put it back and made his free throws, because as good as he is as an offensive player, he's just as good. He's a great free throw shooter. He was 3 for 3 tonight.
Yep. And I did have to throw one comment on from one of the guys who's been hardest on Brad Underwood, St. Dominic's Rosary. Little Michael Corleone here from Godfather 3. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. And I tell you, I think Brad Underwood probably, like most coaches, probably gets blamed too much for things and probably gets too much credit for other things. But I do think that flexibility in the game planning, look, Duke was a bad matchup for Illinois, particularly without Morez. So there's no excuse for getting your blown up worse than you've ever been beat in the history of the program. But I also think you take out the worst game and the best game and look at it that way. But I will say that Brad Underwood doesn't really care what anybody thinks. But if he did, he'd be happy to see St. Dominic's Rosary have something nice to say about him.
We understand how the fans are and how upset they can be, because we were there, and let's be honest with you, in today's media world, that's what we are. I really just think coaches expect that. But what I will say with Coach Underwood, I'm not saying he's listening to us, social media, but all the things that a lot of people have complained about, I've seen changes. I don't see KJ shooting 20 shots, field goal attempts a game. Will Riley, a lot of us, I know I did, was calling for him to be in the lineup 2 months ago. It was after the Michigan State game when they lost at Michigan State was the game I really wanted to see him be inserted in the lineup. I'm not upset with Ben Humrickhouse. His minutes have been decreased. They've decreased, and he's playing his role. He's playing harder, and he's not – I don't think the pressure on him to score is what it once was. Will Riley relishes it. And then coaches making adjustments from the offensive standpoint. Mike, you mentioned Duke. It was a bad matchup, but if Illinois made shots, they would have lost. Duke was the better team that night, but you look good, and the game is different when shots go in. Illinois couldn't put in the ocean, and Coach Underwood just talked about that was an eye-opener for him as well, being in the program for 8 years, and then 8 years, and with all the success that he's had, you have one of the worst losses in school history. There's a lot to be positive about, and we don't know what the draw is going to be for the Big Ten tournament. And I've always said this, and I know people don't like hearing it. I don't really care about it. This year, I do just a little bit more because I want to see them get to that 6 seed line. I think they're better than that to begin with. They are better than a 6 seed. You cannot take away the fact of the amount of injuries that they've had and say it did matter.
Totally agree. I think this by Meow Peep, Brad needed a shift, so critiquing coaching is valid. Now we'll always critique a coach. We'll just tell you that Brad Underwood's won a boatload of games in college, and we haven't. So we have no problems critiquing a coach, but he has definitely made some shifts. Now, folks, we will be right back. We're going to take another message break from our friends at Busey Bank. And when we get back, we are going to have Brad Sturdy will be joining us. He will give us all of his feedback. So if you got questions for Sturdy, start posting them. Now, he's going to be driving a car, but we can read it to him, and we can get some answers for you right after this.
This is the run my own business dream. This is the college is paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
All right, so we are going to welcome Brad Sturdy, the man in the dark. I guess we're not going to have the man in the dark. We're going to have the softball. We're back to man in the dark. So, Sturdy, give us we're out of February pain and we're into March fun. Give us your impressions on this game. It looked like the crowd was wild. The energy was there, and the Illini, as they struggled for a little bit there at the end of the second half, they corralled themselves, stopped turning over the ball, and closed out the Purdue Boilermakers the way Purdue closes out so many teams.
Yeah, really, it's really an impressive win when you think about it. They were down 10 points with 11, I think it was 46 to play, 34 to play, something like that. And they outscored Purdue 35 to 17. The 35 isn't a shock because Purdue isn't a great defensive team. You can get hot and put up some points on them, but that's still a lot of points to put up in 11 minutes. On the other hand, holding Purdue to 17 points during that stretch of over 11 minutes is really impressive because that is one of the best, as Matt Painter said, we're not great defensively, so we got to score more, he said after the game, and that's the reality. Illinois did a better job defensively. And Purdue missed some shots, yeah, but we've been saying that about Illinois all year, haven't we? They missed some open shots, but part of it was I think Braden Smith he played all 40 minutes. He had the ball the whole time. Basically, every play he's got the ball. They used him as a screener when he didn't have the ball. They were very physical with him. He had to guard. It's a tough thing to play 40 minutes. I thought he looked a little fatigued down the stretch. The other thing, he probably wears himself out because he celebrates after every made shot too. So that does add to your fatigue. But no, he's a great player. Almost one rebound shy of a triple double, and he's just a really good player. But Illinois did a better job on him down the stretch. Trey Coffman-Wren is a load inside. Who knew that Humrickhouse would be a better defensive choice against him than Ivicic? He just really struggled with him. And I thought Humrickhouse played him, but the difference was I think Ivicic was playing him, but he was trying not to foul, and so he ends up fouling. Humrickhouse just playing, and he fouls. They basically say, you know what, you got 5 fouls, you're probably going to play 15 minutes, whatever. He had to play more, but he just played him tough, and he didn't care about fouling, and he was just going to be as physical as he could be with him, and so I thought he did a good job there. I thought Boswell was good tonight. Trey White, fantastic. Will Riley's just a great scorer. doing some really good things, starting to figure out the defensive end. And then KJ hits the big shot because he's your closer, and that's what you have to have. They took advantage of that mismatch, and he hits a shot over him. And that's what great players do. They make those big shots and win those games.
Yeah, I think that was really important. As you went down the stretch, did you like the way that Illinois switched up on how they dealt with Kaufman-Renn, especially, and really started attacking him in the last couple minutes?
Yeah, they post-trapped. Then they went with a little dig. Will Riley get his hand in there, get that steal. They made him give the ball up. And sometimes there was one play where a guy did hit a three down the stretch. But overall, my philosophy is, and it's interesting to see earlier in the year, everybody was like, it's so funny to hear it. It's fans are fans because they're fanatics. But fans were like, remember when Illinois would not guard a guy so that the one guy wouldn't go off? And then he would make 4 threes, career high threes, and everybody could complain about it. Today Smith and basically Kaufman-Renn are going off, and but then when they choose double him, luckily Purdue guys missed some shots. They got some decent threes down the stretch, but they missed them, and some of that's fatigue, some of that's making those. I believe in making those other guys beat you consistently, and I also believe in varying your coverage. And I think they were ready for that because they hadn't done anything really differently. They did hedge a little soft hedge a little bit in the second half, but really it wasn't until the end. Now I'm going to tell you a story about that. At the end of the game, when they switched up that defense, okay, and they started doubling the post, there's a timeout. They're coming off the floor, and I watched multiple Illinois coaches go up Orlando Antigua, Jeff Alexander, go up to Zach Hamer and be like, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that. And he said, I got it, we got to do it. And they went and doubled Kaufman-Renn to keep it out of him. So it was like as a group, they were like, look, I know that this is the way we do things, but we have to do it differently now. And they did. And so they made that adjustment. It obviously was extremely effective down the stretch. So it's really good to see those guys working together and coming up with a plan to successfully slow down Purdue.
Yeah, that was good. Ked, any questions for Brad?
No, I guess we talked just before you got on and Larry got on. We talked about the crowd and how enthusiastic they were and how big that was. And I also mentioned, Brad, that I know the coaches knew about this winning streak and they wanted to beat Purdue. And this could also bode well for seeding purposes with the NCAA because you beat a ranked team. You've won 3 games in a row. I don't know if Coach Underwood talked about that in this post-game press conference at all or not, or just why the resurgence right now compared to what it was a few weeks ago.
I think the biggest thing is basically the description is they've had time to practice now, and they've had people all there. You have a practice where you have most of your team actually present as opposed to having a practice when nobody's there. And he mentioned that having Evasich back really helps White and Boswell because he's such a good passer. He lifts guys, even Riley as well, but he lifts guys because he's out there and they have to respect him as a three-point shooter and his spacing, and he's a great passer. And so those back cuts. Think about how many cuts did they have, dives after they'd slip a ball screen, slip a screen, whatever, or just dive on a cut after a pass and get those. You got layups or fouls, and those were huge because you also if you're out there. They did early on. Trey White hitting those threes was big because they were using Kaufman-Renn to play off of him and they were having first guard Evasich and really put pressure on him. So there was nobody there to protect the rim. Once Trey White hit a couple threes, they got to space a little bit. Now there's cutting lanes, and it made it really. And Underwood talked about that. That's something they've been working on in practice, and now they can do it because Evasich is back, and they're almost healthy. They get Merez back now. That it really helps on the defensive end, where you can now match up better with a guy like Trey Kaufman-Renn.
Quick question, Brad, we had is why were there no free throws on the Tech? And if that's the rule, what's the point? It just slows the game down.
What Tech?
The dunk.
The hanging on the rim.
He shot a free throw. He missed it.
Oh, okay. Come on, Deuce.
KJ shot one free throw and he missed it.
Now, we do have a question. This is interesting. William Starnes says having the third worst performance by a 1 seed ever and then having a 30-0 runs are a lot to overcome. I don't know that Brad has done that. I got to be honest with you. I go back through the history of Illinois because I've been called I've been called a dinosaur earlier in this, and I can't really argue with it. But every Illinois coach has had their tournament issues. They haven't won a national title. So I guess I look at that as it's unfortunate, but I guess I don't look at the overcoming as big a deal. As a salesperson and as a coach, you got to worry more about the game today and tomorrow than you do about being upset about something that happened in the past. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Brad.
Yeah, Bucknell and Bradley. Remember built up Kansas, right? And
Years
those
in
are
a row. Thought he was going to be fired.
Matt Painter lost to as a 1 seed, right? Tony Bennett lost as a 1 seed to a 16, then comes back and wins the national title. Matt Painter gets the Final Four finally after all the heartbreaking losses. You just, and Brad Underwood said, you have to keep putting yourself in a position where you have a chance to make a run in the NCAA tournament. It's a crapshoot. It's matchups. It's difficult things. And there is not a coach, and I'm counting the greatest coaches in college basketball history, Coach K, first-round losses with multiple lottery picks. Go down the list of guys who coached in college since the tournament expanded, and they've had upsets. And so that's the nature of the beast. Illinois made the Elite Eight last season. I think that's good. They've got the most wins in the Big Ten over the past 6 seasons. They've won a couple Big Ten tournament titles, the Big Ten title, made the tournament each of those years. They'd be on one more year if it wouldn't have been for COVID. They would have made it in 2020. So it's a good run. You just have to keep plugging away and keep putting it together, and they're fine. It's a good program. They're getting there. They got to keep building. Got to make the second weekend. I think consistently. We've talked about that forever. Making that second weekend is the huge thing to make you a media darling. Consistently make the Sweet 16. The other thing is, I'll tell you this. If Illinois wins 2 games in the Big Ten tournament next weekend, they win Thursday and Friday, they get to that national TV game on Saturday, everybody's going to talk about how, man, it was all the injuries and illness that slowed them down. But this team is legit. They're a Final Four contender. And all the talking heads will be talking about how great Illinois is if they win these first 2 Big Ten tournament games, because that'll be the narrative, and that's the way things work. But so this is a great opportunity for them to make a statement in the Big Ten tournament and get to Saturday. And if they do that, I'm telling you right now, that's all they're going to talk about. Yeah, they had all those guys out, and so that's why they lost some of those games. And now we're seeing the real team that we saw against Oregon and Penn State back in January and Missouri in December and so forth. And I think you'll see the narrative completely change.
Larry, any thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. In fact, I'll take it a step further. If they get to Sunday's game, Brad, you take that again times two or three times that. If they get to the second weekend this year, the NCAA tournament, they will be the team everyone's talking about, because the one thing we love in our society, we love a Phoenix. And we love a team that was down to this, and oh my God, they rose from the ashes, and look at them now. We don't know where this is going. We don't know. Like Brad said, great teams get upset. It happens. But if they can get there, you will hear of Illinois in a way you have not heard from them in 20 years in terms of the national media. They will be the media darling across the country, even on ESPN. As hard as that is to swallow, it'll be still Cooper Flag's number 1, but it'll be Illinois after that.
According to Charles Barkley, LeBron is up there too. So Illinois have to sneak in above LeBron as well. So that'll be awesome. Were there any recruits at the game tonight, Brad, from a basketball recruit standpoint?
I don't, honestly, I didn't talk to any. I did talk to Myers Leonard quite a bit, and then Brett Eldridge was there with Myers. Evidently going to help him a little bit with his country music career as he goes on this. Myers and Ellie are having a baby in May, a child, living down in Nashville, living a good life. There were a bunch of Marcus Griffin, Larry Smith, DJ Richardson, I think, were there. I mean, there's a bunch of guys, old players that showed up, and it was pretty cool to see all those guys. But yeah, it was really, I think it's really an interesting recruiting wise. I don't know that there's a ton of, it's all young guys right now. Of course, guys like Jackson Davis from Warren, he's playing in the sectional championship game tonight. Obviously, he's not going to make it. But yeah, I think it's interesting that it's almost all, they're recruiting more nationally, because a lot of the best players in Illinois, until we get to 26 obviously Lincoln Williams, but 27 is when they start seeing all these guys that are staying in state for now, the Cleveland and Davis and Thompson, so these elite guards in 2027. So we'll see what kind of plays out there and see how they work recruiting, because they're in on some of the best players in the country in 2026. That'll be very intriguing. I think right now they were chanting one more year to Will Riley. I think that was the biggest recruit in the house tonight.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So let's take a round and we'll wrap this puppy up, folks. We obviously here at Illini Guys, if you enjoy this conversation, this is the type of thing. Going to IlliniGuys.com, you can register. It's only $99 a year, which comes out to 27 cents a day. We're way cheaper than Starbucks, but you can be a part of it. And the most important thing is you can get the message boards where you can interact with Ked, Brad, Larry, Matt, myself. And that's creating a community where we have a lot of fun. We talk sports. We don't mess around with politics. And if you want to enjoy your Illini fandom, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no two guys who are closer to Illini sports than Brad and Ked. It's just the way it is. We can, you can say what you want. It's just the truth. So we would love to have you become a member there. Please go to IlliniGuys.com and think about that. The more individuals we have, that gives us the opportunity to cover sports. We obviously, with this larger Big Ten, it does cost more to travel, and subscribers help us to make sure that we can get out there and cover the Illini as best as humanly possible. With that, we don't have any big companies behind us. We wish we had CBS or NBC or some massive conglomerate behind us, but we're just independent dudes who like the Illini and decided we were going to have some fun. So join us. We would love to see you there.
Then again, considering what they're doing right now, the layoffs, maybe not.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. It's getting brutal out there. It's getting brutal. We just saw ads from a whole ton of people who produce podcasts and different things for different companies. We're out there. People with massive layoffs today. We're not trying to be lighthearted about it. We know people are in a tough spot, but like I said, if you enjoy Illini fandom, we're a great place to be. So we'll go around the horn here. Ked, you kind of talk your final thoughts, then Larry, and then Brad, and then we will close it out for folks. And we really thank you for coming on after this victory. We're obviously got a ton of people on here, well over 2,000 people on here, and it's great to have everybody listening, and it's great to know there's that many Illini fans who are enjoying themselves. Ked?
I'm going to start with what Brad and Larry both said. I think CBS is big. I'm a big marketing guy, putting your brand out there and letting people see. Big Ten Network is great, but if you can get on CBS, Illinois has a chance to do that in the Big Ten tournament. I think that is huge. I think that attracts the national media. I think it draws attention to Illinois, and I know the selection committee, Larry mentioned about all the things that they could have done and should have done, and now they're saying, hey, this team's put back together. I think that part of it is huge. Larry mentioned something that I just cannot overlook. We did these podcasts. We talked about how they will finish down the stretch. None of us thought they were going to go 3-0. Let's just call it a spade. And they did that. We were just hoping, most of us we were hoping for a split. Now they've gone through. For me, I'm going to close with this last statement. If they can somehow get Morez Johnson healthy, and then they can win, and they can advance to the second round of the NCAA tournament. It's been a great season because there's been too many highs and too many lows, and if they can pull that off, it's been successful. And then Brad Sturdy mentioned the fact of trying to get guys to come back. I can't emphasize enough. I agree with you, Mr. Sturdy. Somehow they got to get Trey White to make sure he's able to come back.
Larry?
Oh, sorry. You knew his time is. I was enjoying what Ked was saying. No, I agree with all of that. Look, this is a big win, 88-80. Anytime you beat Purdue, it's big. But I think, again, like we said before, the perception, and it's huge. To me, the most painful part about the Duke game was that it was at Madison Square Garden on Fox. And so the entire country is watching this debacle. You've got 2 games now on network, CBS on Sunday, Fox tonight. You begin to erase that, and it can continue. Brad said if you get into the weekend next week. Illinois fans should enjoy this because Ked said this wasn't supposed to happen, but we're back to where we were mid-season saying there's something special about this team. That's what I saw, and I think they'll only get healthier and better now that they're all older. The freshmen are no longer freshmen. They played 30 games, and so let's get to Indianapolis next week and see what happens.
And Brad's hand. Nope, that hit,
Yeah,
that's gone too.
There's my hand. There it is.
There it is.
So no, I would say this. I think winning this close game is really important. Brad Underwood talked about that. They really haven't done that. You know, they've been beaten pretty soundly or won by a lot. And really, last close game they won was probably Missouri, where they had to close it out down the stretch. Maybe Washington, but they gave up a big lead against Washington. They blitzed people or won pretty handily. So this was a huge thing. Brad Underwood mentioned this. His confidence is higher because they were able to win a close game against a team that has veteran guys. They won against a veteran team, a team with 3 juniors who have a ton of playing experience, right? This is exactly what you want to be able to do and win those close games, because you get in the tournament, you're going to have to win those close games. You got to figure out who can close and who's going to do this and who's going to do that. I think that's really important. Now, the other thing I would mention is that they get another 5 days off now without a game until they play Thursday. That will mean they were like Tuesday, Sunday, Friday, and then Thursday. This is going to be the freshest they've been all year, and they're perhaps they're one of the freshest teams in the Big Ten, and maybe the country heading into this Big Ten tournament, because the way schedule was a grind throughout January and February. But now you've had a chance to get those legs, and I think that is a huge thing. We talk about shooting, and this team, you notice that now that they're getting some time when they don't have game for game, they're making more shots. So I think that is part of it. Fatigue is a factor, and this is a team that has a chance. When they make 3, as Matt Painter said tonight, they can beat anybody in the country.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was a great recap of the game there, Mr. Sturdy. Appreciate that. Ked, thanks for coming on. Of course, Larry, in the midst of broadcasting state championships in the state of Georgia, being able to find a few moments is awesome. Thank you very much. Folks, we will be back. We'll probably do something to prep you for the Big Ten tournament, either Sunday, Monday night, in that range. So we will be back to talk about that. And of course, we will give you coverage during the games and after the games during the Big Ten tournament in preparation for what we hope is a nice, long, extended NCAA run. This team is proven to be exactly what we have said it is, a team with very high ceiling that also can have some days where they have a very low floor. That's what happens with freshmen. And then if you throw in mono, the flu, all sorts of broken wrist and random forearm injury, these things can happen to us. But I will tell you, it's been a fun season so far, and we're hoping to really cap it off. So, folks, until next time, go Illini.